Coming up on the Braves Sports Network on this Monday. Boy, we got some rain around here on this Monday. And we have the Cedric Thomas Show. The Braves have won a couple in a row and trying to finish the season on a high note as the Tigers of Jackson State roll into town. They're red hot. They won 7 in a row, and they wrapped up the Eastern Division with a big win in Montgomery on Saturday. So we'll talk about that on the back end. We'll recap the big win over the Prairie A&M Panthers as the Braves, again, a second half that was back and forth, got enough offense, and the defense found a way. So we'll talk all about it with head coach Cedric Thomas. We'll get it started after this 30-second timeout here on the Braves Sports Network.
Founded in 1920, the Southwestern Athletic Conference has produced some of the most iconic names in sports. Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Alcorn State, Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, Grambling State, Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State, Prairie View A&M, Southern, Texas Southern, and the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff have united to embark on a new era of greatness. The Southwestern Athletic Conference, building champions for life.
State University on this Monday night, the Cedric Thomas program on the Braves Sports Network, 91.7 WPRL, WPRL.org, 97.7, 1240 AM, WMIS, WTYJ, Fayette Natchez, and 90.1 WMPR in Jackson, and we are on YouTube, the Braves Sports Network. Glad you can join us. We'll recap the big win over PVU on Saturday. We'll take your questions, your comments, and your text. You can give us a call, 601-877-6595. You can text a question, 601-301-2611. I'm on X Tall Man Radio. We'll talk all about PVU, and we'll talk all about Jackson State. A lot of news, too, involving just some extracurricular stuff. The SWAC's cracking down, even the Celebration Bowl's cracking down on all this extracurricular action that we've seen involving HBCUs and SWAC teams. So we'll talk about that with Cedric Thomas with a big rivalry game coming up. So we'll take a time out here. We'll be right back in 1 minute on the Braves Sports Network.
Here at Alcorn, we understand that we share some commonalities with one another. So in some ways, we're already family.
Seeing everybody, seeing more people that looked like me and had the same mannerisms as me, it was fantastic.
The variety of people here really made me feel at home.
When I stepped on campus, it felt like I was supposed to be here.
When they say the grass is greener here, they really mean it.
Alcorn provides our students with the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes they need to go out in the workforce to provide the best quality client-centered care.
This program is very beneficial. I think that they have provided me a lot more information to help guide my nurse practice.
We are preparing a well-rounded student who's able to go out abroad in the workforce. The faculty give us the knowledge we need in order to go out there in the hospital and save lives.
And we welcome you back to the Cedric Thomas program. Glad you can join us, ladies and gentlemen. Good to have you with us. Settle in for the next hour as we talk some Braves football, as Alcorn coming off a big win over Prairie A&M, their second straight, and now they're looking for their third in a row coming up on Saturday as they take on Jackson State. Give us a call, 601-877-6595. You can text a question, 601-301-2611. And on X, Tall Man Radio. Our producers, Cedric Tillman, as well as the one and only Jamario Brooks. Charles Edmond, and we're with the coach, Coach Cedric Thomas. Coach, how you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm blessed, Mr. Charles. Everything good?
Everything is good, and it's good when you're coming off a road win. It's never easy to win away from home, and we're able to find a way to get that done at PVU, a team that basically eliminated FAMU the week before.
Yeah, you look at the whole totality of the schedule, and what Valley did, going down there. Man, it's tough. You can't take it for granted. And I think, just with that mindset, knowing that they ain't giving wins away in this league, so it just makes sure you appreciate them that much more when you do get them.
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing, it's been a topsy-turvy conference. I mean, going all the way back to media day, we know what the prognosticator said. Alcorn in the West, And you look at the East, Alabama State. And Alabama State was in the race until a couple of weeks ago when they lost at Grambling, and they had an opportunity with FAMU losing to Prairie View, but now it's Jackson State and Southern University. And congratulations to those teams. They'll be playing for the championship in a couple of weeks. But it's just been a topsy-turvy conference. Some teams with some opportunities, some teams have wasted opportunities. But when it's all said and done, you got two teams coming out of there.
Yeah, you got to play. The meaningful games and got to win the ones that count the most. And the guys that's in it, they did that. And so kudos to them, for establishing that and being able to reach that milestone. And so we just got to finish. For us, we got to finish this thing strong. We know we got X-State coming in this weekend, but man, I'm so proud of the guys. I thought that was just a cultural win for us to get on the road, and be able to do what they did down in Houston. And so shout out to the team and everybody that helped us, get that W.
Yeah, I mean, when you're just looking at the game with Prairie View, I mean, they eliminated FAMU, so that got your antennas up right away. If you look at what they did throughout the course of the season, a loss to UAPB hurt, and some loss to some. I mean, they make 3 or 4 more plays. They're in that Western Division race, and what they've done here at Panther Stadium. So it's never easy to win on the road, and and 2 years ago we wound up winning here, but it's never easy.
No, and I think it's a parity to the league. You're getting a lot of transfers in. You get a lot of freshmen and sophomores that understand, what's at stake when you're talking about these rivalries, and you got some great coaches that kind of have their input on some of these programs, and when they go to different schools, they kind of just take that with them. And so, it's a good time to be in the league. But man, it's just week in and week out, you got to be prepared to play.
And you just never know. Look at what Valley did, winning in Tallahassee, ending with the 23-game home winning streak. They have one of the top home winning streaks in the country in the FCS, and Valley goes in there and gets it done. You just never know. I mean, Valley gave us a tussle, gave Jackson a tussle, so you just never know in this league what is taking place. All right, let's look at this game, Coach. You talk about the fast start. We've been talking about it. What was your definition of a fast start? And it was about as good as it got. I mean, 3 scores on the first 3 drives to start. On the road, away from home, 3 drives, 3 scores. That's about as good as it gets.
The last couple of weeks, we've been, doing the Fast Friday deal, and that's kind of just been helping. It's the science behind. Normally Thursday be our last day for work, but we kind of did some things on Friday, so that's cutting it to right about 35 to 40 hours before you kick the ball off. So guys are still kind of ginning, just from the Friday walkthrough, which was really good. And I think, it was just a testament of that, in these last couple of weeks we really started fast, so we'll continue to implement that. But anytime you can do that, especially on the road, it makes your chances of winning go up that much higher.
Well, let's look at the game, Coach. Prairie View won the toss and deferred. We got the football, 1st down and 10 at our 25-yard line. On a 4th down and 1, Coach, a decision right off the bat. Riverboat Gamblers. We need to call you Riverboat Sid. Riverboat Gambler. 4th and 1. I mean, the Southern game kind of on the same spot. 4th and 1 from our own 34 here. And Truck Griffin, a 6-yard gain to continue to drive. Talk about the decision to go for it on 4th and 1.
The defense, these last couple of weeks and last couple of games been just playing outstanding. So I know Coach Rowe and that staff, when you get those guys saying, hey, Coach, put that package out there so we can get it, that gives you a lot of confidence. But it's also, the testament of them guys up front and having Coach Watson knowing that we can go get a yard. But also if we don't, it ain't no second thoughts behind it. We know defensively those guys can go out and get stops for us.
Well, speaking of that package, we were talking about it during the broadcast. When you have that max protection package, we call it the big boy package. That's what we call it on the radio. Is there a name for that particular package?
Yeah, we call it Buck. It's
Buck.
It's the Buck package.
Buck package.
Yep.
How did you come up with Buck?
Well, Coach Watson, he got his deal, nuck if you buck. And so
okay.
That's kind of his little mantra to kind of put his spin on it, because it's all his guys besides the quarterback and the running back. So, we let him have it.
So the Buck package, we need to say that quite a bit on Saturday. It's the Buck package that's in that 3rd and short and 4th and short.
Most definitely.
So we went for it on 4th and 1, the Buck package. Truck Griffin picked up 6 yards and the 1st down. And we got to Prairie View's 42-yard line on 2nd down and 8. Sewell with a 58-yard run to give this team the lead. Talk about that run.
Saw some versus the tight end wing look to the boundary, and Coach did a really good job of manipulating the defense and got what he wanted. Corner sitting on the edge, and ran a gap scheme play to get around the edge, and then Sewell, just what an amazing job. You think about Valley when he got caught. We've been teasing him ever since, but I don't think anybody caught him since then. For him to cut across the grain and be able to put that ball in the box was just awesome. And so that was the fast starter that we want, and defense was fired up behind that, but that was a really good play call and well-executed play.
and that was a 6-play, 75-yard drive, and we had a 7-0 lead at that point. Then the Panthers got the football with 12:18 left in the first quarter on a 3rd down and 7. Jalen Johnson's pass intercepted by McKelton. So talk about that. Offensively, getting off to a fast start, converting a 4th and 1, getting the touchdown. Defensively, getting off the field on a 3rd and 7.
We wanted to convert some of those turnovers so we could get a ball and really good, get our offense the ball in really good situation. And Coach Rowe dialed a really good defense up. Jeff did a good job of just spying the spot concept that they tried to throw to and got it tipped. And it was just good to see him make that play. He's one of them, red shirt and sophomores who enrolled early. They played a lot of football for us. So to see him make that play was really good, and we knew we was in a great situation right there.
So we got the football with 11:13 left in the first quarter. And Xavier Vaughn out of the no huddle was sacked, and then Vaughn for 3 yards and an incomplete pass intended for Diablo McGee. And then Kiani from 50 yards, longest of the year. Were you even thinking about anything else considering where we were on the field?
No, he told me right before we went out, where the ball placement was, and we had it right on the right hash and the distance. But we work it every day, and he felt good about it, and so. Just thinking about the record, in my head for him, but also knowing that he's showing it consistently and the guys protected, we felt good about it.
We'll talk about that record, Coach, because people were kind of talking about that. I know it was a goal that you were trying to achieve with him and trying to get that record.
I don't know the number, but, for that situation, it was just one of those thoughts where you could say, well, let's bag it up, get the delay of game and punt it. But I see how hard he works, and I know the operation in which we do it. For me, it was, hey, let's just give him a try. But he told me right before pregame how he felt, and it was some wind going the opposite way, and so we want to maximize that opportunity early to be able to give him opportunity.
So it was 10-0 at that point, and then you fast forwarded. The Panthers got the football with 10 minutes left in the first quarter, and then after a punt and a Samarian Edwards, a 30-yard return. Then the penalty, Coach, kind of set us back there to the 24-yard line. We talked about penalties, Coach, and it was a pretty good run, but it was taken away by a penalty.
Yeah, and those guys did it. I'm critical when they don't do it and stand up for them, but we latching on too long. We got to let those guys go. Once they pass us, we got to do a good job, what we call boxing out, and those guys just being just too aggressive, and they taking guys and slinging them to the ground, and they're going to call it, and the refs told me about it. And so once I saw it, I told those guys that, hey, that ain't the technique that we're teaching. Hey, once you butt them up and you latch on, you got to let them go. And so, it was an unfortunate situation that we got backed up behind that. And so we'll continue to work it and continue to work that technique till it's done. But, that's still not a part of what we coaching, and we can't shoot ourselves in the foot for mistakes and such.
I know you see that often on punt returns, the hold, then got the blocks in the back as well. What do you teach as far as that technique or avoiding that? Because you see it so much on punt and kickoff returns.
Yeah, one thing is guys try to manipulate the spacing because the refs really don't see it. When you think about it, you don't get a whole lot of penalties called inside of that play because it happens so fast. And so what you get is you get guys trying to, just hoping that they don't be seen, or thinking, the refs always say, well, if they're not impacting the play, we won't call it. Well, they don't know where the return is going a lot of times. So if you run close to them, then they're being impacted by it. If it's running away, the ref will tell you, hey, look, it's your job to get to the play. And so, those a couple times where the returner made a miss, and we ran it right up toward them. And just unfortunate we got our hands, caught inside, and we slung them to the ground. And so we just got to make sure that we're boxing those guys out. It's just turned into the old basketball technique, the same way you box out after a missed shot. We got to box those guys out, once we, get through creating the contact.
So with that return, we got the football at the Panthers' 24-yard line with 8:39 left. And then Kiani's field goal made it 13-0. So that completes the trifecta. 3 drives, 3 scores. And I'm saying to myself, man, this is about as good of a start as you can possibly have on the road, up 3 scores.
Yeah, well, for me, that was the disappointing one because I felt like, we needed a touchdown there to kind of put it a little out of reach early because I looked at that sideline, and that team was just kind of hanging around, as long as we let them. And I think that's what ended up happening. Later on in the second half, I wanted a touchdown. I'm quite sure everybody else did, but I just knew that would really help, and the penalty kind of affected it. But it's just anytime you can get points, it's good. But I'll be saying, I'll be lying to you if I told you, I wasn't disappointed about getting 7 points on that drive.
And then, as the second half went on, I'm thinking the Panthers are hanging around kind of like what happened last year. They hung around, they kept slamming the football, kept running the football, broke a couple, and then they set themselves up for the walk-off field goal at our right here last year. And I'm saying in the second half, I'm thinking we're just letting these guys hang around, kind of the same type of thing. But we found a way in the second half. But in the first part of the game, it was 13-0 with that field goal. Coach, one of the unsung heroes, Rogers, our punter. I mean, he had a 60-yard punt. I think he had a 70-yard punt. I mean, he was terrific punting the football. So as we fast forward to 3:52 left in the first quarter, we're able to punt the football 4th and 6 from our own 39-yard line. Rogers' 60-yard punt put the Panthers at the 1-yard line, and he did that quite a few times throughout the course of the game.
Well, you always talk about it, Mr. Charles, field position. That's one of your deals that, since being around you, that's kind of one of them nuances that you're going to bring up, which means a lot, and so that was a situation where, field position was flipped, and, it was hard for those guys to really create anything coming from, 1 yard deep. Everything get tight, and you don't want to just kind of give up plays, but then you got to worry about getting the safety. So that was just awesome for him to do that and pin those guys back. And it was just good to see the fruits of our labor from a special teams aspect, start to show his head.
Well, the Panthers did try to punch it out 3rd and 17 towards the end of the first quarter. And at the end of the first quarter, Coach, it was 13-0, a little bit momentum. But the Panthers, what was – when you look at that offense and you see what they do statistically and on paper, but what you see there, they took some deep shots, they dropped some balls. That quarterback was kind of slippery. They had some receivers open, but you can just kind of see what Prady was trying to do, just the execution piece. Thankfully, they didn't, and they had receivers in positions, but just either not making the right throw, square outs weren't there, or just dropping some stuff.
Well, in testament to the defense, too, now, those guys ran around. When you got Malachi breathing down your neck, a lot of those throws, was rushed and came out a little fast, and then you can see Steve running around, hitting people. When you got good defenses, that make a lot of that speed up, and from an execution standpoint, it keep you from really executing at a high level when you got another 11 group that's sitting over there, trying to tear your head off. And I thought, when Malachi kind of got rolling, it sped them guys up, and they just had to, settle down. And so I thought, Coach Rowe and his staff did a really good job of changing up looks to make sure that offense, couldn't just stay doing one thing the whole time.
So it was 13-0 as we get into the second quarter. At the 14:52 mark, got the football at the 46-yard line and had to punt. A Rogers 31-yard punt to Cavill. We thought that there was going to be a fair catch call. There were so many bodies around him. Did you see an attempt for a fair catch there, or no?
No, I didn't see an attempt, but I know where that stemmed from. You remember the Jackson game, the Gremlin game where we got the 15 yards when we, the young man did a late fair catch, and we kind of, blew him up, and hit him, and then they told him, hey, Coach, you got to give him a 2-yard buffer. And so that's what the guys was kind of waiting on. You see him there. But, talking to one of our guys, Dylan said, he thought he saw him, kind of flash the fair catch, so he stopped. When you look at the tape, he kind of grabbed and tugged his jersey. And so when you run at full speed and, up to 20, 22 miles per hour, you can't really see the whole picture. And so they thought, that he had did the short, quick signal again. And so when they caught it, you see everybody freeze, and then he takes off. And so that's one of those things where the advantage goes to the returner because you got to give him a 2-yard buffer, to allow him to catch, whether it's a fair catch signal or not. And so once that happened, our guys just got to do a better job, like I told the ref. And after that, then we just got to blow them up and get that 15 yards. Then I'll take the 15 instead of the 70 that they went and scored on the touchdown.
That's just you're darn if you do and darn if you don't on that.
Yeah, you pretty much, and I talked to the ref. I said, it's just one of those loopholes in the game where advantage goes to the returner because, you got to stop and you can't tackle them until you catch the football because anything before that is a 15-yard penalty. But I'd rather just err on the side of 15 yards than, because that group been doing too well. We hadn't had no issues on the punt return aspect, as far as our guys covering it. So that was just an unfortunate play for them. But I understood. That wasn't anything I got mad at them about. I just, got the guys together and told them, hey, from here on out, blow anything up, whether we see his arm or not. If you think it's, a fair catch or not, hey, let's get it to the turf and I'll deal with it accordingly.
So that got the Panthers on the board with 12:31 left, and with the PAT was 13-7. The next Brave drive started at our 25-yard line, And just talk about that. These, you're seeing guys a little bit more here in the last few weeks run stuff out from the 1 yard line, from the 2 yard line. What's your philosophy on that? It's pretty obvious. If it goes over your head, you let it go. But guys get a little feisty here. Not necessarily us, but I'm seeing a lot more returns deep from the 1 yard line, from the half yard line, from the 1 yard line.
Guys impatient. A lot of them impatient, and then too, a lot of them selfish. A lot of them feel like they'll say, "Coach, I want to make a play." But a lot of times that play, needs to be made just by putting it at the 25 or the 30, But we're dealing with 18, 19-year-old brains, and a lot of times you can coach it and you can tell them, but a lot of them, think, personally that I can go make that play. And it seems like you're running far, but when you get tackled, you're at the 21-yard line when you could have just, let the ball go and got it, an extra 4 yards. So, that's what's happening. But then you get guys like we got to see this week that he don't care if it's in the back of the end zone or out the end zone. He going to get it to real. He going to run it. And so, some guys got the green light as such, and so you just got to monitor it, however you're going to handle your own special teams.
Well, the interesting development after the Panthers got the touchdown was 13-7. 12:31 left in the first half. We got the football at the 25-yard line. We got to the Panthers 16. Xavier Vaughn pass incomplete to Truck Griffin. He was hurried, of course, and then at that point on a 3rd down and 12, you made a quarterback change, Coach, and Trey Lawrence coming into the game in a big moment with a 3rd and 12 staring at him.
That's the second time in a row. He's coming fresh off the bench, and completed a big time 3rd down, and that's who we know Trey to be, and we expect that out of him. He's been around here, and you heard me say it over and over. He played a lot of meaningful football, and so the whole playbook is open, with him, and so it was good to see him come in and get that safety diving down in and get Caleb Anderson his first touchdown.
Yeah, on the no huddle. I mean, and he put some air on it. Nice touch by Lawrence right there.
Yeah, it really was, and that's his MO. As far as throwing the football, we talked about it, just a true natural pass and being efficient, and doing it. It didn't look like it later on, but once we settled him down, he ended up, doing a whole lot better.
So that capped off a 75-yard drive. All the good work, Coach. We led 19-7, and then Keani, who just made a 50-yarder 30 minutes earlier, misses a PAT.
And I'm sitting in my head, thinking about these numbers, because now we got to, press to go for 2 the next time we score. And, just always, your brain going on overload just with the analytics, and so I'm saying, man, that one right there, I'm talking to the football guys. I hope it don't come back to hunt us.
It was 19-7 at that point. So now with 8:32 left, the Panthers get the football at their 28-yard line. And then on a 4th down and 1, they went for it at their own 37-yard line. And I'm saying to myself, at that point, Coach, we got the momentum. Our defense is doing some good stuff. You're going for it at home at your own 37-yard line. They may be pushing their chips all in the middle of the table right there. And we got off the field. 4th and 1. We shut them down, and we get the football at the Panthers 37.
Yeah, and my thing then, I'm kind of, got that Mortal Kombat mentality now. I'm thinking we should just finish them, and try to get it in. And get some points out of it, because like I said, we're looking at a team that's basically just ready to lay it down, if we allow them, to. And so, we unfortunately we didn't do it, that drive, and we didn't get points out of it. And so, defensively they just had to come out and get some stops for it. But that was one situation where I felt like if we could have got any points out of it, I thought that would really kind of put a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, we got the football after that turnover on downs with 6:54 left at the 37. So we were faced with a 4th and 2 at the Panthers' 29-yard line. Were you thinking 3, or were you thinking touchdown and maybe put some bigger separation between yourself and the Panthers?
Touchdown. We had just got the big stop. Knew we was on the road. We was going to try to get 6 points. Unless we got in a situation where if it would got close, and I thought the field goal, opportunity would have been a little bit more closer, because we was going against the wind at that time. We would have tried it, but at that moment it was trying to get 7 points.
So just talk about the play. Didn't get anything out of that on a 4th and 2.
Yeah, we just slipped. We got the movement that we wanted on the left side. We put put the running back in. I think it might have been Ant Williams on the buck package, or maybe Sewell. It wasn't Truck at that time, but then ended up slipping. In one of them spots where the turf just got him, but the play was there. He just fell on the ground, and so unfortunate mishaps, but defensively came out and had to get a stop for us.
So, yeah, the Braves turn it over on downs, and the Panthers get it at their 29-yard line with 5 minutes left in the second quarter on a 4th down, a 60-yard pump by Jasso. So then we get the football, Coach, with 3:23 left, in the second quarter at our own 10-yard line, and on a 2nd and 9, Trey Lawrence's pass intercepted by Robinson. Talk about that play.
Yeah, just a bad read. They got a middle field open, look, and so he just got to be patient and take the check down. That's one of them times. Trey kind of erred on the side of the pass instead of just taking what the defense give them. They was just really bagging up, trying to get in the half, with the decent score. And so he just got to, settle down and just, read his progressions, and he got to get it to the running back, and we live to see another play.
So at this halftime mark, it was 19-7, Alcorn at the break. You were talking to Cedric Tillman at halftime about Trey Lawrence, and obviously Xavier Vaughn was banged up. The play selection and the playbook. You've got a guy in Vaughn, obviously, that can get it done with his legs, and then you've got Lawrence, you're trying to push the ball down the field. With the lead and the way your defense was playing, you mentioned that the play selection or the playbook was going to change a little bit. Were you thinking about expanding it, shrinking it with the lead? What were you thinking at halftime?
After that interception, we was going to kind of just shrink it down. Against the wind, Trey wasn't throwing it as with as much as velocity as we like because of the conditions. And so we wanted to just kind of shrink it down, and get out the possessions as much as we can, kind of bleed the clock out a little bit, and just kind of put it on Prairie View versus the clock instead of us, now. And so, that was kind of the deal at halftime going in, but knowing that Prairie View wasn't going to quit. And when we had our shots, we was going to be able to take them. But the most important part to Trey was just to make sure he took care of the football.
We'll talk about Xavier Vaughn. Obviously, he went down. Didn't come out in the second half. Was still in the locker room. What is his status going forward here for the final game?
I think he'll be a go. He was in in good spirits yesterday while we had walkthrough. We'll kind of do the same thing we did to him last week. He'll probably have tomorrow off, and Wednesday, get him primed and ready. And if he can go and he feel like he can go, we're gonna let him. If not, then we won't put any student athlete in harm's way, and so we'll have a plan just in case he don't.
Yeah, I mean, he's been battling. He's been banged up and been battling out there.
Well, that's what happens when you think about the style of play. When you talk about the RPO and the run game and being able to throw the football, that's the system where you think about John Gibbs, not finishing the year. Lenore's Footman not finishing the year. Noah is because of the style of offense that you run. Technically, those guys are really running backs when you think of the carries. John rushed for over 1,000 yards. Foot, over 1,000 yards. Those essentially are tailbacks, when you think about the yardage, from a standpoint. Those guys take pounders when you don't slide. And Felix was kind of the only true natural passer we had in that range. So he was able to make it through, without any of the bumps and bruises. But when you're in this style of offense, a lot of times that's what's going to happen.
So it was a Braves lead at the break. As you look at the third quarter, Coach, and you talked about changing and shrinking the playbook a little bit. The Panthers got the football at the 25-yard line on a 4th down and 13 from the Braves 36. A 53-yard field goal was missed, so they were able to move the ball down the field, and I thought that took a lot of air out of their sails. They wanted to get some points out of it, and they couldn't make the field goal, so we kept that little bit of momentum.
Coach Rowe, man, is really mature, and he's doing an awesome job. Just to watch his matriculation through these last couple weeks defensively, man, just to see him grow was just awesome. And he came out and gave some different looks, and so what we call some leaky yardage, they was able to get some first downs on some pitches that they didn't see the first half, knowing that we had some adjustment the second half, but when it was time to shut the water off, he did exactly that.
So after the miss, we got the football, our first drive with 11:21 left in the third quarter. The second play of the third quarter, Trey Lawrence pass picked off by Davis on a 2nd down and 8.
Yeah, the same deal. We had a really good look, wanted to push it down, especially off the field goal miss, and, he just overthrew him. He got to get it down, get that elbow down, and stick to his fundamentals, and that ball sailed on him. Right read, it was just a little high, and so unfortunate, but that was the one, I told Coach, hey, look, if we can't complete it and he can't throw it efficiently, hey, we got to run it every snap. Let's snap it with 1 second, play good defense, and get up out of here with a win.
Talk about the offensive line and the protection against this Prairie View defense this past Saturday.
I thought they did an amazing job. You look at, what they did, that defense did to FAM by knocking their quarterback out and having so much, production against them guys offensively. That was one of our concerns, to make sure that we can give our quarterback time to throw it. And I thought they did a really good job of picking up some of the things that they did offensively. Quarterback had to get out of there sometimes, but, for the most part, quarterbacks, they had a clean pocket. We just let a couple of them sail on us. And so those guys have been playing on a high level. We got to continue to develop them, continue to work and get better. But I thought those guys gave us a chance to win.
Well, after that pick, the Panthers got the football with 10:45 left in the third quarter. They got it at their 25-yard line, and Rodriguez, a 41-yard field goal attempt to make it 19-10. 10 plays, 50 yards, coach, taking up 4 minutes. You make a team methodically move the ball down the field. You got the lead. You got the clock on your side to where they're just chewing up clock and not necessarily getting what they want out of it.
Yeah, we we kind of lived through that, having a lot of yardage and not many points. That was kind of the thought process behind, PV and doing that, But shout out to the defense, man. Those guys really, when it was time to bow their necks up and get stops, they did it. Coach did a really good job of calling those plays when that field got started to shrink, and so those guys weren't able to get but 3 points out of the drives.
So 6:48 left. It was 19-10. We go 3 and out, and then the Panthers, after a 36-yard Rodgers punt, get the football at the 35-yard line, and then they get a field goal attempt by Rodriguez again from 20 yards to make it 19-13. That was an 8-play, 62-yard drive. How frustrating is it? I guess from the offensive side, you move the ball, you're thinking touchdown, and then you got to settle for 3. You got to take the points. A lot of football in front of you. But still, we were able to hold them twice to field goals when they were kind of marching down the field.
And you always watch, what the other head coach is doing. We always learning and just, paying attention to the nuance. And I thought that was a really good, really smart strategist deal that Bubba did, because a lot of coaches, they get in their feelings and want to make it personal, and then you go for it, and then you find yourself kicking yourself in the tail when you're on the bus ride going home. But I thought that was a really methodical deal for him. He got a really good field goal kicker at home. Offensively, we're not generating any movement. So I think he just figured, well, if I could keep it close, and defense playing well, he could pull that thing out in the end. And so our defense made the stops, but he did a good job of getting the points.
Well, if you look at the third quarter, Coach, we definitely bogged down in that third quarter. It was a slog. You look at the yardage in the third quarter, the Panthers with 151 yards of offense in the third quarter, and we only had 15. What was the challenge in trying to jumpstart the offense in the third quarter?
Well, a lot of it is me. When I got the bag up to come in and throw 2 interceptions, and we got an 8-man box, the box is telling you to throw the ball, but your quarterback is telling you, don't throw it because, I'm not a steward of taking care of football right now. And so I'm telling, the guys, hey, look, give me the best run plays you can get. Let's bleed this clock out and let's keep playing, really good defense. But, we going against the win, and, we got a guy that's kind of letting that thing hang out there. We can't afford to give it to the other team. When you look at 2 weeks, we've given other teams, 14 points. And so that's ultimately every decision is made, from that standpoint come from me. But I knew defense was playing really well, and I talked to those guys. I knew those guys was going to have to continue to make stops, but what I wasn't going to do is let the offense be in a situation where they lose the football game.
So you really, it was your decision to kind of slow things down and muck it down.
Yeah, most definitely. And when I saw the bag up come in, and I got all the confidence in Trey in the world, but 2 interceptions, right there, and then all I can think about the last 2 weeks of, turning the football over, and, I got to look the defense in the eye knowing that it's points given up, that they ain't on the field. Now I got to do a job from a leadership standpoint and supervising this whole team to say, okay, what's best for this team? And that's turning the field over, like you say, field position, and making sure, we give ourselves a chance to win in totality.
So going into the fourth quarter, Coach, it was a 1-score game. So as we look at the fourth quarter, on a 4th and 11 from our 34, again, Franklin Rogers, a 55-yard punt. Boy, the turf monsters were really kind to us because he got some terrific bounces and hops that kind of went our way, and I think that played a factor maybe in the fumble on the punt return that helped us seal the game. We'll talk about that here as we enter the fourth quarter. So on that 55-yard punt, the Panthers got the football with 14:43 remaining, didn't do anything with it, and then with 13 minutes left, it was another 3 and out, but then a 73-yard punt, Coach. So I'm sure you're thinking about all that. What Rodgers is doing, punting the football, punting them in the hole, just protecting the football. I'm sure it was a lot for you as a coach to process in that moment. 1-score game, you don't want to give it away. You got a punter that's pinning them back. Things are bogging down, but you just want to do what you can in that moment. And the punter, our punter, bailing us out there.
Yeah, and we worked those things, and he did a really good job of getting it out. And so for me, it wasn't so much about, us versus Prairie View. It was Prairie View versus the clock, and so, of course, we want the offense to go. as fast as they can and score as many points. But if I feel what they're doing is not what they're doing is detrimental to the whole team, then I got to come in and make a stance on what's best for the whole team. And it wasn't just about offense or defense; it's about the whole team. And I made the decision I felt like that was conducive for us to win. And so that was to play really good defense, turn the field over, and let's make Prairie View score. We got more points than them, and they hadn't shown that they can put it in the box. So let's continue to do that. And that fourth quarter we had to win, and so that kind of helped Frank get that ball some added distance on it also.
How frustrating was it though for offensively? The 3 and outs. How frustrating is, you see that so many times in football, 3 and out, a first down, and then you put another 3 and out. How frustrating is that, especially on the road in a close game?
Very. Whether if you're at home or in somebody's backyard, Mr. Charles, it's frustrating regardless. Just because you want at least 2 or 3 first downs to bleed the clock, but also just turn the field over. And them guys, kids gonna be kids. Defensively, they know what's going on, and so you got to keep those guys in tune. And those guys was amped up. You see Malachi getting in the offensive huddle, getting Steve and those guys, ready to roll. And just a first down here there, it takes some of the pressure off. You don't have to score every drive, but just to be able to get a 9-play, a 8-play, a 12-play drive, to turn the field over, is always helpful. And so that was frustrating, at that time.
Well, maybe the defensive stop of the game, perhaps here, with 11:23 left, after that 73-yard Rodgers punt, the Panthers took over the football at their 1-yard line. So you think about it, twice in this game, the Panthers started at the 1-yard line. So with 11:23 left, they started at their 1-yard line, and on a 4th down and 24, Jassel's punt of 27 yards, we get the football with 5:27 left, Coach. And this is where things kind of got interesting and makes you wonder, just trying to close the game out. I mean, we got the football, 5:27 left at our 10-yard line, and then we get called for not 1 but 2 delay of game penalties on this particular drive. Talk about that sequence.
Yeah, I used all the timeouts, early. And, I talked to Mr. Said, maybe after the game about it, because I knew defensively, the way they had been playing, that I had to make sure that all, I's was dotted and T's was crossing. We had a situation from a personnel standpoint that we wasn't aligned correctly, and so I couldn't live with the fact that defensively they're playing well, but we don't give them an opportunity to be in the best position. And so I used those timeouts, right there, and we got the stops that we needed, and so we didn't have any more. And so coming on and off the field from the punt aspect, those guys just trying to make sure that we talk to them through the protection and make sure that they got the looks that we wanted. So it got a little long, and so but from a bagging up standpoint there, you can't go but half the distance. They can't put it in the end zone, so I wasn't worried about how far we was going back. It was just making sure that we didn't get it blocked, i.e. Mike Neese, down there. And just, it took a little long to kind of get the verbiage to what we wanted. And so that really wasn't a big deal for me as far as the penalty, because it really just took us half the distance back. But just making sure that we had everybody on the same page as far as the tight punt protection.
Were you saying to yourself, you had to burn the timeouts, but then you're saying to yourself in a 1-score game, oh, man, it's one of those, you want to get everybody on the same page, but then in a close game, those timeouts could come in handy.
Yeah, they did, and we used them when they needed them.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of
I don't need them at the end.
Yeah,
no,
I guess
right
not having the timeouts like in a 1-score game. You're using all your timeouts, and then you're saying, man, do I like to keep one in your pocket?
Nah, that ain't gonna do you no good. I can't take it back with me. I ain't keeping nothing in my pocket. We used them when we had to use them, and then like I said, I'm cool with a half the distance penalty going from the 5 to the 2, punting the football. that ain't gonna do anything. And so even if I would have called timeout, we would have still kicked from the 5. But if I didn't call timeout on the defensive play, they would have scored. And so that was my thought process. And me and Mr. Said had a really good, dialogue behind that. And so, it worked out. And so I was excited about it just to be able to get an opportunity to punt. But I didn't want, one of those gunners to be able to slip out, and then all of a sudden they got a block. Then we sure enough was going to be in trouble.
Emmanuel Barnes said that was probably one of the keys to that whole thing, the fact that you just had to take those timeouts just in those penalties and all that just to make sure everything was aligned properly.
Yeah, you got to. Because, the stress levels is up. A lot of people don't understand what goes on, man, in that time. That clock gets rolling, and if you ain't prepared for it, you'll pull your hair out because you're dealing with 18, 19-year-old brains who when them anxiety levels get up, the stresses get high, they looking at you like, Coach, what we going to do? They forgot about everything that happened in practice, and so you got to settle them down, and you can't rush them out there and make a brain-dead decision, and one person forget, or I thought, and then all of a sudden, we having a different conversation here on Monday morning. So I'm cool with the delay of game. I'd rather have a delay than a delay in misjudgment, and then, the outcome is totally different.
Well, speaking of the outcome, I mean, just look at what happened after that. A Rodgers 45-yard punt. Cavill, who just had the big touchdown run early in the game, kind of the same situation with bodies around him, and it was a muff, and Loncourt recovered that play. I mean, just talk about that. Just in that moment, a couple of penalties, timeouts, and we get our hands on the football with 3:22 left.
The football guys took care of us on that because we living right. We doing things the right way. But I knew that young man when I saw the angle and I saw him, traveling to get that football. All he was thinking about was trying to make a play. I kind of figured, he was going to drop that ball because he got the touchdown. They were struggling, offensively, and he just wanted to kind of help his team. And he put his team in a bad situation. But good that we recovered it and, was able to close that thing out.
Yeah, so we got the football with 3:22 left. And then the Panthers had to use their timeouts. And then it was Truck Griffin time. It was that what's the name of that package, Coach?
That buck package.
That buck. So it was time for the buck package.
Yeah, it was it. And they did a really good job coming off the ball and kind of sealing the deal. Emotionally, they was kind of down because of the play. But once we got them to use their timeouts, we knew we had them what we wanted, and now we just had to finish it.
And on a 3rd and 1, Griffin for 22 yards to finish it.
It was just good to see him. He's deserving of it. He's our bell cow on offense, and man, I'm just so excited he had opportunity to end his senior year, down there in Houston. And all he was saying in the locker room was he owned Houston, which was good. And so, shout out to that whole offense and Truck for being able to, score that touchdown.
26-13, the final score. The Braves with the victory. We'll take a timeout here. We'll recap the numbers. We'll take your questions, comments, texts, and tweets, and we'll talk about Jackson State. Some other stuff to talk about as well. It's the final regular season game of the year right here at Jack Spinks Marino Castle Stadium at 2 o'clock on Senior Day. We'll talk about that as well as the Cedric Thomas Show rolls on in 60 seconds here on the Braves Sports Network.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all. If I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
So we'll close out the season. We'll kind of recap everything and get you set for recruiting. We'll be talking with Coach Thomas coming up throughout the offseason. Also, A.D. Robinson wants to do another show, and he wants to talk about athletics and all that. So that'll be coming up here in the next couple of weeks. We'll kind of set the stage for that in the next couple of weeks here as we get through football season. So a lot coming up. Speaking of a lot, Coach, not a lot of yardage in this game. I mean, the Panthers were 318. We had 248. What you look at the stat sheet, and look, it was just one of those games. There was opportunities out there. We took advantage of some. The Panthers couldn't. Our defense holds up. The punter does a good job, Coach, and just the numbers are the numbers. We found a way to get this one done.
Yeah, the numbers sometimes do lie. They don't always tell the whole story. And so in this situation, the biggest story was just, us going down and having some resilience and being able to come out of hostile territory with a win. And so, I was proud of the guys, talked to them at halftime and after the game, just culturally continue to build this foundation of who we are and who we want to be going forward. And I thought they accepted the challenge.
We had 198 yards rushing. I'm spoiled, Coach. I'm used to the 4 games, 1,000 yards rushing. I'm used to the 300 yards rushing. Was it just tough? Was Prairie View's defense pretty stingy against the run?
Yeah, they was really athletic, big up front. And once they saw that we had an inefficiency to throw the football consistently. They just kind of boxed us in, and wouldn't let us get a whole bunch, and did some really good things in the secondary to kind of just stymie the opportunities we did have to throw the football. And so, Bubba's a really good, defensive coach, and they got a really good defensive staff. And so, I slowed it down to kind of make sure that we didn't have any hiccups to give ourselves a win. And so, shout out to them. But it was just good to, be able to do enough to get a win.
Yeah, we won this game, Coach, 8 of 20 passing. We won the game despite that.
Yeah, that's It's been with 2 interceptions, also.
Yeah, and so, you have games in which, you throw for 400 yards and it could be tough, but this was 8 of 20 was, when you look at the passing game, Coach, there, with Vaughn as well as Lawrence, you really was almost like just trying to keep away and just trying to slow the game down as much as you can, kind of run the clock and bleed the clock. That, once we had the lead, you felt like your defense was doing enough. Just bleed the clock, don't turn it over, don't give them momentum, which they had a couple opportunities at.
Yeah, especially, when you got to look at the whole totality of not just that one game, but you're talking about, 2 games in a row, in a close football game where you give 14 points up to the other team. And that was, started going through my mind. And I got to look at those guys defensively, and be able to let them know that, hey, your job is to stop the other team and not the offense allowing other teams to score. And so, that was just one of them deals for me from a management standpoint that I felt was best for the team. And I'm just glad it worked out, for everybody to have a chance to celebrate inside the locker room when it was over.
Well, defensively, Coach Damarian Edwards with 11 tackles, Markel McLaurin with 8. Jaquez Dew, I haven't talked about Jaquez Dew much. Talk about him.
Man, I'm talking about, I called him out, Sunday. He's just that unsung hero. To hear him say, around that fourth quarter, we're not going to lose this football game. He's not a real verbal guy, but that was kind of the first time this year that, he stood up besides, Steve and Malachi and said we weren't going to lose, and he meant it. And so, I'm just so proud of him. He know the relationship that we have and his family. Just good to see him play a really good brand of football these last couple weeks.
Braves get the win by the final score of 26-13. Let's go to some of the text questions, Coach. We'll talk about Jackson State here coming up here and some other stuff, involving SWAC teams and all this extracurricular stuff. Even the Celebration Bowl has changed some of their post-game format. We'll get your thoughts on that as well. Coach, from the text line, Coach, congratulations on the hard-fought win at PVU. The second half of the game was in their minds, one of the most unproductive 3-and-out games of this season. What are the plans to get more production from the offense to give the defense a break? A lot of times when we blitz, the middle of the line is open and either the quarterbacks or the running backs make huge gains. What adjustments do you see there, Coach?
We got to just be efficient. We got to find a couple things that the quarterbacks can do well and just kind of hone in on those things. But we can't turn the football over. The coach is not out there throwing the ball to the other team. He calls the plays, and those guys got to execute it, and the offensive line got to do a good job of blocking for him. And so I just made them, meet as a whole, with the whole group and watch all the film so everybody can kind of see, it's one player here, one player there, just not being in the right gap or may not doing the things that they need to do for the whole play to be successful. And so if we can get all guys doing, what they're supposed to do consistently, you'll see a better output like they have been doing the last couple weeks. And it's just one of them weeks where, once we threw the ball over, and turned it over, I decided that, hey, look, we got to be, we got to be mindful of winning this football game and what gives us the best opportunity to win.
There's a comment, Coach, from the text line, 601-301-2611. Coach, we can win Saturday if we stop the run.
Almost definitely. We stopped the run consistently since, the Southern game, and I'm so proud of them guys. But you're right. That's a person that really kind of in tune to what's going on. And so they got some really good weapons up front, but we definitely going to, put as many guys up in that box to stop the run to make our chances, a whole lot higher to win.
Another from the text line, will there be any quarterbacks in the mix this weekend you're looking to possibly sign, I guess, from a recruiting standpoint?
I don't just looking at the list this morning, we didn't have any on officials this weekend, but we will have some guys coming in next week. I think we got some, junior college guys and transfers The portal isn't open yet, and we still got some high school kids and junior college guys that still playing in championship games and bowl games. So we won't have any quarterback coming in this week, but I think next week we should.
Another text question, Coach. What needs to happen going into next year to push this program back into the championship game and possibly playing for the Celebration Bowl?
Just continue to build on the culture and the foundation of winning. When you think about, T and I think maybe Steve, those are the only two guys that's been a part of, that championship run. And so we're building this thing from the ground up. A lot of people, it's Alcorn, but Alcorn hadn't had a championship since maybe, 19, and since COVID. It ain't been those days, but that's because the influx of, guys that was a part of that championship run, had left. And so we got to continue to just build this foundation and get really good student athletes to come in and, continue to just make the plays. You look and go back and look at the totality of this season, a play here, a play there, a run stop here, a run stop there. We got just as good a chance of everybody else that's in it, looking at the two teams that's in it. So we're not far off, but from a foundational standpoint, we got to continue to do things the right way with the cultural fixtures of guys that's got to come in here and get back to that championship mentality.
With another text question, with the exception of Xavier Vaughn, will those other quarterbacks we talked about, Lawrence and others, return next year? What will the quarterback room look like?
I would love for all of them to come back. It'll be a really good deal for them being in the system, going into the second year, second spring, and knowing all the nuances, seeing all the wideouts that's returning besides T and Truck, on the edge. So, I would love to see the quarterbacks, come back. And if that's the case, then we don't have to go out and wholesale looking for 2 or 3 quarterbacks. We got the guys that's in the building that should be a whole lot better, just getting, an opportunity to go through the system for the second time. And so, but you know how it is with this transfer portal. We'll meet with them once it's over. And hopefully those guys stay around and give us opportunity to have guys that's familiar with the system once again. And also for them to be able to get that opportunity and not have to go anywhere and learn a whole new system and try to, fight from the bottom, once again.
Coach, some news involving Braves players. We got 5 players that's in the Legacy Bowl, Coach. Edwin Summerauer, Steve Carter, Malachi Bailey, Truck Griffin just announced today, and Stamarian Edwards will be in the Legacy Bowl in New Orleans. Coach, talk about that.
Man, that's huge. That's awesome. I talked to all my guys who SWAC guys that didn't have an opportunity to do that, did they pro days or didn't have an opportunity to do pro days. So it's a testament of the brand. It's a testament of those guys and their families and the foundation that has been laid, for them. And they such good men outside of the football aspect, whether they get a shot or going to that league, but still going to the league in life. They got opportunity to do that. And so we went last year. Every scout will be in the house. So if they got goals and aspiration to playing on the next level, it's going to be some people that they can turn some eyes and be able to see. But it's just a great event. Just the non-football deal, going to the kids, hospital and community, service aspect that's associated with it is just second to none.
What are they looking for? I mean, is not just open house in terms of who goes to the Legacy Bowl. What's Doug Williams? I know he's involved with it. What are they looking for when they're trying to select players to go to New Orleans?
The first thing, you got to be a senior. It's got to be your last year. That's first and foremost. And then, outside of that is just fixing a roster, being able to have, multiple players at certain positions to where you can have a functional roster on both sides, barring injuries and things of that sort. So it may be some guys that's in it that, may not have a shot, but that's still, their opportunity and their prerogative just because you got to, stock those guys up, at those positions to have a successful bowl game, as seniors. And so, that's kind of what they're looking for, just talking to them. And then you're going to find some guys who really got a chance that might not, get to any bowl games, such as the Reese's or the Hula Bowl, that scouts going to really kind of, comb through and be able to find a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, so it's just not just picking stuff out of the air. I'm sure they're doing their vetting and they see good stuff, and I'm sure they look at the stats and they look at film.
Yeah, and that's how they, continue to get the sponsorships, because they got to put a good product out there. They can't, scouts can't come down and take, time from their hard, work that they doing to go see guys that they know that don't have a shot. So it's going to be some guys there that's going to have some PFF grades that's going to be, warranted for free agent shots and opportunity to make rosters.
Well, Coach, one of the big storylines involving not only the SWAC but HBCU events, I mean, it's been kind of a tough few weeks. If you go back to Tuskegee and shooting there and the injuries there on their homecoming. It was a great scene, but it was overshadowed by that, and they're making adjustments in terms of going forward, IDing people and having badges and all that. And then the player conduct that we've seen at our football games in the SWAC. You know, what happened the other night with Jackson State and Alabama State, 16 suspended, 7 from Jackson State suspended for this game. Even it's gotten to the point where with the recent rash of events that even in the Celebration Bowl, John Grant, the executive director, came out with a directive saying the losing team will be forced to go to the locker room. Opposing coaches can shake hands, and the winning team stays on the field. Coach, talk a little bit about that. I mean, obviously, and I've said, look, we're in different times. Things are changing, and this is another one.
Yeah, and I think it's warranted of it, Mr. Charles. I think it's more so grown people, kind of set the table for how some of these younger adults acting. You know, after the Alabama State game, one of the coaches, he jumping up in, Coach Wallace's face, and I'm looking at Coach Wallace like, what is he doing? And then, of course, the kids going to perform in that manner. And it's not all of the coaches because, we're responsible for all of them, but to watch a position coach, perform in that manner, I'm saying, like, that ain't what we doing. We're not raising these young adults to, jump around and turn it into a rap video or turn it into neighborhood stuff. After we get done, after 60 minutes of competition, then, it's sportsmanship. And that's all the way, from look, guys. But if grown people, we're going to make this rivalry be more than just the sportsmanship, and we're going to talk about F them and F this, and they ain't this and they ain't that, then we don't need to shake hands. We need to just go our separate ways, and that's what the coaches also, because a lot of the coaches, not fond of each other. So we don't need to shake hands with coaches if we're going to perform, like that and be in all each other's face. But it started with us. We put so much stock, even when, Coach Hop, first year here, he wasn't a part of it just far as like we were, but it was beat Jackson signs all over the place, beat Jackson. And I told Coach Rowe, the first time we played him here, we might have had 5 unsportsmanlike penalties in the first quarter because the guys was beat Jackson. And it was literally, and we kind of amped that up, from a coaching staff. And after that, he never did that, and I had to tell him, like, Coach, this thing, you put gas on it, man, this thing will blow up. It was the first time, having it back here. And, even Coach Rowe, I think he got kicked out the game. And I was telling the guys, at the meeting, so we ain't doing it, and we're just going, it's another game for us. We'll let the fans and everybody else handle the rivalry aspect. And a lot of it has died down because now you don't get freshmen who go through and understand what beat Jackson is when you got all these transfer portal kids. You got a kid from Central Michigan. He don't know nothing about Jackson and Alcorn. We've done that. You got to transfer from, Memphis or Florida. You got so many crossover student athletes and transfer kids that they don't understand what we consider the rival being guys who played in it and coached in it. And so we create that. And so we just got to do a better job of monitoring, the message of what we want as far as the competition aspect. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I've been at another institution where they laugh behind the scenes, at the mockery of what we're doing. And so many guys laid the foundation for us to be able to have what we're having and not perform in that manner. So it's just disheartening. And so whatever we got to do to clean it up, I'm for it. And I told my guys, if we ain't got to go over there and shake hands, then let's not go shake hands, because we had a incident, last year after the game. We had a couple guys get assaulted after the Jackson game. And so, security going to do what they try to, what they can do. But if I got to keep the team from going over there, then I'm willing to do it, because I don't want that embarrassment on this institution, on me, nor these young adults, and their families.
It was just one of those things where it's just unfortunate where you just can't shake hands with the person you were competing with. Are we seeing the end of those days? Shake hands. Hey, good game. Good luck.
Yeah, I think so. I honestly think so, because you don't have enough support staff and security. You got people on the sideline that may be instigating, and then all of a sudden we got to turn that switch off, and all of a sudden I got to go over there and tell you good game. And for the most part, you're going to get 80% of the kids that's going to do it. But it's going to be a 20% that's, they ain't going to be feeling it. Well, the mental health, because mental health is real. It ain't just from a standpoint of football. I've been, told that, I'm trying to beat you, and when it's over, you say something to me or you're dancing in my face, and I don't know or have the wherewithal to be able to deal with that. So I do something out of character, and then his teammates going to hold up for him, and then all of a sudden you got a brawl. And so to keep from all that happening, I'd rather if we get to it, hey, let's not shake hands. I'll talk to or see their coach, and let's get the guys in the locker room because, that's embarrassing. And I don't want, that to put a stain on, what we've built and what the guys before me have built, for this conference, like the Celebration Bowl and like getting opportunities to get into playoffs and things of that sort. And so, whatever we got to do to rectify the situation so those things don't happen, then I'm for it.
Yeah, John Grant, I mean, he came out right away. And this game's on ESPN, and he wants to protect that brand, the Celebration Bowl brand, by making sure that nothing happens, and you hope it doesn't, but he wants to make sure, and that's why the losing team must exit the field immediately. And I don't know if the coaches will shake hands or not. That's their obligation, but we'll see how that goes. Times have changed, definitely, for sure. Well, speaking of time, it's time to talk about Jackson State. Coach, his team won the East. They won 7 in a row. And they eliminated Alabama State, and they won the East 16-10. So when you look at this Jackson State team, you talk about T.C. Taylor. He replaced six coaches left. They went to Colorado or other places. He has basically a brand new staff. After Coach Sanders left, over 50 players left that program. He was rebuilding that, and yet here they are, year 2. They won the Eastern Division. What do you see in this Jackson State team?
A tough football team that's going to run the football, like the call or the text, person that just came in. They're going to run the football, and going to run the football. When they got to put it in the air, it's because you made them. They got 2 dynamic backs, the leading rusher in this league, and they got a, water bug that can take it the distance, and got an O-line that's massive that'll kind of push over if you let them. So, we got our hands full with a really physical football club. That's going to try to run the football, and defensively it's the exact same thing. They're going to try to stymie you out, going to pressure you, going to put 8-9 men in the box and going to say, hey, look, can you throw the football efficiently and consistently to beat us? And so if we can do that, I like our chances. And then in the kicking game, we got to keep that ball away from Terrell. I think he's leading the nation in kick return and doing a dynamic job on the punt return. So we got to make sure we know where he is. And if we do that, I like our chances. We've been consistent stopping the run, in the last couple of weeks, and we got some things that we can do, and we'll shoot all the bullets and put the gun out once we get done. But we're gonna go out, blazing, for this one.
And of course, it's a rivalry. Alcorn, Jackson State. It's people talk about it for the whole year. From Cedric Thomas' perspective as a person, from Cedric Thomas' perspective now as the head coach, what does a rivalry like this, Alcorn, Jackson State, people talk about this game, Alcornites, Jacksonians, they talk about this game all year long. We beat them up there last year, coming off the tough loss to Texas Southern. We go to Jackson, and we spoil their senior day up there. They won the division, so they're excited about playing some football after this. But, what does a rivalry mean to you as a person and as a coach?
It means everything to me, to be able to have that year winning streak against them, that's what I want. It's one of them games that's circled on my calendar, even as a position coach, as a coordinator, and now as the head coach. For me, I understand the rivalry. The good thing is I don't have to play. I just have to make sure that my guys don't go over there fighting, cutting up when it's over. But we want this one. I know what it stands for. I know what it means. Coach Rowe played in it. He understands it, and so this is a deal that it's a big deal, for us, and we understand that, and we knew once we signed up for it, it's one of them deals, and so we're gonna be scrapped in, and we're gonna be ready.
The one story I can share, I can't remember what year it was, Coach. We won the Eastern Division the week before Jackson State. Harold Jackson was the coach of Jackson State. We lost here to Jackson State here. Yep. And I was talking to some alums about it, some alums a lot older than me. They were upset that we lost to Jackson State. And I'm like, we're getting ready to go play for a championship here. We're going to Houston. And so what happens after that? And he said, man, let me tell you something. Even if we win the championship, to me, it's a half a championship because we lost to Jackson State. That's just how much weight that game carries.
Yeah, you got some I'm entrenched in it, and we get it, and we understand, and so, the good thing is we understand the importance of it. Everybody on the staff does, and, we got some players, that get it, but for some it's just another game, which is a good thing, and so, they ain't got to go out and do nothing extra. They ain't got to do anything that's going to cause hurt, harm, or danger outside of the non-football aspect, and so we got to put good game plans together to make sure we're prepared, just like we've done, every week. But we understand the magnitude of this game on Saturday.
And, of course, tonight, obviously some rain. You'll pick it up tomorrow. And, Coach, I'm looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to ending the regular season on a 3-game winning streak and building momentum for 2025.
Me too, most definitely. I think this one gonna be this one gonna be a good one. And the guys gonna be locked in. And for us, we understand, like I said, the magnitude of it. But this will prepare us going into the spring. Ending this thing up on a 3-game winning streak. Going against them guys up there. And so, let's get ready to roll.
The level of focus, I know for homecoming, you took your team off campus for a game like this. You're going to do the same thing?
Yeah, that'd be off campus. This is our Super Bowl. This homecoming 2.0 for us. And so we no distractions. Won't be no partying, won't be no hanging out. This is the last one. So, this one, about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, it won't be because we was distracted or had anything else going on for us. This is our SWAC championship.
You had curfew for homecoming. You had curfew starting at 9 o'clock Tuesday. Is curfew going to start at 9 o'clock tomorrow?
Wednesday. Yep.
Wednesday at 9. Lock it down Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
There it is, Coach. Braves head football coach Cedric Thomas, ladies and gentlemen, getting ready for Jackson State here on this Monday night. Coach, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.
We will have a show next week as we recap Jackson State and recap the 2024 season. Should be a good one. A lot of good highlights next week on the Cedric Thomas Show. Glad you can join us on the Braves Sports Network. I'm Charles Edmond. We'll talk to you next Monday night for the season finale of the Cedric Thomas Show. For our producer, Cedric Tillman, Jamario Brooks, head coach Cedric Thomas, I'm Charles Edmond. Glad you can join us. We'll talk to you next week. So long.